Okay, task three in money management personal finance unit. So the activities in this are all are car insurance and life insurance, pensions, what's called ISAs, and we're going to look at the stock markets. So think Wolf of Wall Street for activity number five. So I guess this task is all about kind of preparing for the future, preparing for risk, trying to kind of cover yourself in terms of your risk of losing your life, losing your car. That would cover the insurance, and also financial terms, in terms of making sure you have money for your future self. So for your pension, we'll find out what ISAs are soon, and then also stock markets are a way that people try and make money to give them more money for the future. So the first activity is on car and life insurance. So what we have here is we have a table which basically shows the average cost for car insurance premiums for different age groups. Okay, so if we go to the table, you can see that you've got the policy holder. That's just the person being insured. Is You've got different age groups: 80 to 20, 21 to 25, so on and so forth. And then you've got your average cost. So you can see it's for 80 to 20-year-olds, the average cost is £972. It gets lower and lower and lower all the way down to 66 to 70-year-olds is only £241. So your first task is a little bit of research. So it's to understand and kind of discuss this idea of why car insurance is particularly expensive for the youngest age groups. So what you have to do is use the internet to investigate accident rates for different age groups. So for younger people, for middle-aged people, for older people, and comment on what those accident rates are and why you think that would make their insurance either expensive or less expensive. Okay, so that's your first goal. Then you're talking about life insurance. Okay, so this table shows a monthly cost company X advertises for whole life insurance. So that is to protect you for your whole life. So you have the age of the people down the middle, and it's always split into males and females. So on the left, you've got for £25,000 of cover. For right, the price is for £50,000. So these are how much you would pay per month for a female and a male, and this is for non-smokers. So second question you have to do is look up and write a simple definition of what whole life insurance is and what term life insurance is. So what are the difference between whole life insurance and term life insurance? Explain the difference. And lastly, question 3, you are to look at the data shown in the table and explain why there might be a difference between the premiums for smokers and non-smokers. So that's kind of common sense. Why would there be a difference in price for smokers? This was all the prices for non-smokers, but there'll be a different table for smokers. So why would there be a difference in price there, in terms of life insurance? And then also, why would there be a difference in price for males and females in terms of insuring for your whole life? Okay, so I'll pause the video just now, and you need to go away and research those 3 things and come up with an answer, and we'll come back on and discuss it. Yeah, use the internet to discover accident rates for different age groups and comment on how that relates to like their car insurance. So can you write down some comments? So what did you discover about young driver accident rates, old drivers? Write down a comment of anything that you found out from your working, please, from your research, and I'll write down some of the ideas. Okay, so just put it in the comments. Okay, so did we find anything out about young drivers? And their accident rates? Okay, right. Katie's just put in a comment. That's good. Yeah. So, anyone else got anything that they found out? No, it doesn't matter what year, Nathan. Just whatever, anything that you found out. We'll just jot down all the ideas. So, anything about accident rates that you found out for any kind of age group. What was the highest likelihood of getting an accident? What was the lowest likelihood, etc. Only get an answer from Katie so far. Come on, rest of you. Should have been looking this up. Should have found out some information. Okay, so Katie said the younger the age, the higher car insurance is, they have the highest rate of crashes. So that's definitely what you should have found out from your research, is that basically young drivers crash more often. So make sure you have this written down. So young drivers are involved in more accidents. So young drivers are involved in more accidents than any other age group. So therefore, in terms of insurance, that means it costs the most to insure them, because they're the most likely to actually have to make an insurance claim. So that's how it works for insurance. It's not necessarily, you might be a really safe driver, but they don't take into account the individual person. It's just, what is your age group and what is that age group most likely to do? Are you more likely to drive safe, or are you more likely to get in an accident? Unfortunately, young people like yourselves are pretty careless with their driving, so they're more likely to be involved in accidents, which means higher insurance costs. Okay, so basically, the higher the risk, the higher the insurance cost is going to be. So Nathan put some information, said there was from 4 years in the United States, there was 20,626 fatal crashes, which means somebody's died, and that involved at least one driver aged 17 to 20. So in the United States, you can start driving when you're 16. So you guys could all be driving by now if you're in America. But there was, over 20,000 fatal accidents in 4 years involving young drivers. So that's a huge number. Katie is also said in the comments, the older the age, the least likely to be speeding, but they still have a high rate of deaths in accidents. That's probably likely due to their just kind of underlying health. I mean, a young person in an accident is more likely to kind of survive because they're younger and healthier. I suppose older person in an accident, they're easier to kill, if you know what I mean, if you pardon that kind of crude saying. They're more likely to die in an accident because obviously their health conditions. So yeah, old drivers, there is actually data that shows that old drivers, and I think actually now it is middle-aged drivers, so I think if you looked in the data, it should be kind of 30-year-olds are actually emerging as one of the worst driving ages. So particularly 30-year-old kind of parents. So kind of mum and dad, single parents driving kids to school in a rush type thing, are emerging as one of the most dangerous drivers. Also dangerous. So the basis of this activity was to get you to research some stuff and can understand that younger drivers are involved in more accidents. Therefore, in terms of insurance, that's why it costs more. So I think the safest age group is about 50 to 60-year-olds. They're involved in the least accidents usually, which means their insurance is usually less. Actually, I think if you look at insurance premiums, when you get higher than like 70 years old, so when you get to like your really old granny and grandpas trying to drive, their insurance costs actually start to go up again because, they're actually quite dangerous drivers because they can't really see where they're going and they drive, really poorly. I mean, if you're my mum, she just drives at 50 mile an hour everywhere. So motorway through the middle of Paisley, it's just 50 miles an hour everywhere. Right, I've tried to tell her. So that's obviously quite a dangerous method of driving. So, that will be reflected in your insurance rates as well. Okay. If we go on to the life insurance, we don't have a huge amount of time here, but we'll quickly do this. The difference between whole life insurance and term life insurance, well, the kind of clues in the title. Whole life insurance applies for your whole life. So you're insured for as long as you live, right? So make sure you have this down. Whole life insurance is for your whole life. So your entire life. So that insurance will keep going until you die, basically. Term life insurance is only for like a certain number of years. So make sure you've got those differences down, please. Term life insurance is only for, say, 20 years, 30 years, something like that. So it's a kind of defined time period. So say 20 years cover, etc. Okay, so most people would take out a whole life insurance because you just basically take it out and it is open until you're no longer here. I have got a whole life insurance policy. You need to take out a life insurance policy when you get a mortgage. So I have now got a life insurance policy for the rest of my life. Right, and just quickly explain why there might be a difference between the premiums for smokers compared to non-smokers and the premiums for males compared to females. Now, I don't have time to ask you for comments on this, but if you do have any, if you have got an answer to this, I would like you to write it in the comments, please, and while I jot down kind of my ideas. So if there's any comments, it seems to be only Katie that's actually done any work, so if anyone else wants to jump in and help, that would be brilliant. Smokers. Smoking is bad for you, definitely is. Smokers are jokers. But smokers obviously are more likely to have health conditions, health issues, which means that they're more likely to die. Okay, smokers are more likely to have health problems. More likely to have health problems, so therefore that means basically that their life insurance is going to go up. So smokers are more likely to have health issues. So therefore that means higher insurance. Okay, anyone else get any comments? Yeah, Louis just basically said exactly what I've said. And males, in terms of females, Katie said men are risk takers, and that certainly is the case. But in terms of just your general life expectancy, men don't live as long as females, and there's just a kind of norm. There's a medical reason for that. There's also social reasons in terms of men being more risk takers, doing more stupid things. Women in general, historically have been in general more the ones responsible for taking care of children, etc. So less likely to take risk, although that's not necessarily the case anymore. But yeah, so men take more risks, and in general live for less. Take more risks. I mean, if you look at the life expectancy, which is what we're going to do in the next task, you'll see that there's a big difference in the life expectancy. They live less. Men live less. Therefore, there's a higher risk for men. But if they live less, it will mean they have different insurance costs. Okay, women on average live longer than men, so therefore they will be insured for a longer period of time. Okay, so just to give you an idea that there is differences between men and women, there is differences between smokers and non-smokers. So if you are a smoker, and if you are if you're female and if you are a male and you are a smoker, then that is the highest risk category. Therefore, you will pay the most amount for insurance. So if you're a male and you're a smoker, you might want to think about trying to quit smoking to save yourself a few quid. Right, I've ran us over time, guys, so I'll need to stop it there. Thank you very much for all of you that took part, and we'll continue with this tomorrow morning for activity 2. Okay.